Someone once told me that the reality I thought I knew was just one of many.
Greetings, my fellow Krakoans. Welcome once again to Days of Future Podcast, the show about all things X-Men. This is Trev.
This is Joe.
Joe, here we are again. Now that the folks got to look at our faces, we feel like we can't deny them anymore. You know, The demand was so heavy.
You know, because here's the thing: I see my face every day, and so to me, nothing special. And I see you pretty frequently in my nightmares.
Yes.
So, you know, nothing different there.
Well, plus I send you just unprompted and certainly unasked for. What is it? I think 48 to 50. You know, somewhere in that range, selfies a day. Like,
yeah. So, have the police talked to you about that yet?
Was that the police at the door the other night?
Well, I don't know. Is FBI police? Is that what it is? Yeah, you know, we had some good feedback. I liked putting it together. I liked, you know, we're 50% sex appeal, like we said last time. So we need to have our money makers out there. So I think it worked well.
50% sex appeal, 30% weather talk.
Yeah.
20% X-Men.
20?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. All right.
We might need to take that down, actually.
It might be more like 20, 15% X-Men, 10% math.
Hey, you were just telling me before we started recording, you were telling me you were a bad student. And you
horrible student, really bad, really, really not great. So some fun things, you know, we mentioned, if you didn't see last time, we did a video episode. We'll probably, I assume maybe moving forward, we just kind of do it this way.
Perhaps. I know over the summer, there's a possibility you and I might actually be back in person for some recordings. So those wouldn't necessarily be video, but yeah, I think we can do this more regularly for sure.
Yeah. And then, so we have a YouTube channel, which we'll be putting these up there. And then I started a Twitch channel because I want to get into live streaming, as in like streaming our content, and then any sort of like X-Men stuff related. Like, what I'm building up to is doing like a playthrough when the new Wolverine game comes out on PS5 in like 2 years. And so I want to get that ready. So I'll probably randomly just say, hey, I'm live streaming past episodes. So go tune in on our Twitch channel, which we'll link to on all our social things. And
maybe, you know, here's me probably, you know, promising something that we'll maybe never deliver on, but maybe someday we get to a point where you and I are finally again, because I'm getting pretty caught up at this point. But if we're like, you know, fairly caught up, maybe like every once in a while, like once a month or something, we could do an episode where we just talk about the books of the month, you know, and kind of in the moment, you know. So
yeah, I haven't been caught up since the break of the Hickman, you know, era, basically. The switch with the deaths and lives of Wolverine. I haven't even touched those yet. So I'm hoping to like carve out some time in May or June and just, you know, read until my little heart's content.
Yeah.
But we got kind of a different type of episode today. And I'm just going to jump right into it. Because structurally it's going to be a little different. So we're recording this May the 5th be with you. And so
Revenge of the 5th.
Revenge of the 5th. Bunch of dweebs, man. Star Wars. Those fucking losers. Myself included. Actually, no, I'm not part. I've talked about this on this podcast before. I've talked about it with a lot of people. I've retired my fandom of Star Wars. I'm retired. No, and that's not anything to say about any of the current things. It's just, it's not my generation anymore. I don't have a fight. I don't want to fight.
So you're not saying you won't watch the new stuff. You're just not getting actively involved.
I don't get, I'm not getting riled up about it.
Like, what about this Obi-Wan trailer? Did it move any kind of needle for you?
Didn't even watch it.
All right.
I watched the first one and I'm like, well, I'm going to watch the show. I don't need to watch the second one. And I'll watch the show. You know, I still haven't finished Boba Fett, you know, but I watched it.
I gave up on Boba Fett.
Yeah. And I just kind of watch it and I go, oh, okay, I agree. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to.
Now, what if they announced a new Star Wars trilogy starring as the two new like primary Jedi Knights Jonathan Silverman,
Yeah.
Mike O'Malley.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I'm in, baby.
Okay, you're a fan. The fandom is right back.
Yeah, I mean, this is like I reserve the right to get really into it again. But as of right now, I'm just like Charles S. Dutton, watching from the distance with that little like clap gif sort of thing where he's like yes, from Rudy, right? So that I'm like from the distance. I don't really care, but I'm watching, and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch the stuff, but I don't need to like.
Whereas a couple of years ago, you were more like the Brendan Fraser gif of clapping, like from the Golden Globes.
Yeah, Brendan, we were pretty obsessed with that gif when that came out.
Do you think? I know. Hopefully, this is far in the future, because I love that he's having a moment. I love that he's on the upswing. I love that he's having a big comeback.
Yeah, you want
when Brendan Fraser passes away in like 40 years, 50 years. Do you think that GIF will be what they put in his in memoriam clip at the Oscars?
No, it's gonna be him shirtless scene from Tarzan, whatever.
He's gonna request that, you think? Yeah.
He's dead. No, you don't get to request what. No.
You can ask ahead of time, gang.
No, you cannot. They don't even put people in there. Like sometimes.
Oh, I know. There's always death snubs. That's for sure.
Yeah, death snubs, which is the name of your metal band. Death snubs.
So as you're saying, it's got off topic. I know we don't usually get off topic, but
listen, new listeners, this is rare for us, so we got to apologize.
It's May the 5th, and the reason we are recording on May the 5th.
May the 5th is because Dr. Strangelove and the Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness comes out tonight. And so this is probably like one of the big tentpole MCU movies, right? And so
aren't they all now though? Aren't they all at this point?
No, like I finally watched Eternals. Wasn't it? You know what I mean?
I haven't, yeah.
Yeah. So we can talk about that later. But so basically we wanted to record our thoughts, get some guesses in, because that's basically what the MCU is now, is like trying to like predict what's happening. Instead of good storytelling, it's like what action scene are we gonna see? Are we gonna who's gonna show up? So we can
even talk about that a little bit, I guess, about right. How is your excitement tampered by that element?
Yeah. So we're gonna record half the episode before we see it, and then we're gonna come back because I got my tickets for tomorrow night. I got grandma watching the kids, and we're going to go see it tomorrow night, so Friday night. And you're going when? You're going
tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. Yeah. So then we'll gather our thoughts and come back and say, pretty fresh, what we thought. And most importantly, I think what this is an X-Men podcast, 15 to 20%. We're going to, what does this mean for the X-Men moving forward? Right.
Right. If anything. Yeah.
If anything, which I think we've been asking for all these movies. And then we come back and say nothing. But
if nothing else, we do have, we know now, it's 100% confirmed. This is our first real X-Men content in the MCU. Regardless of anything else that happens, we know there's an X-Men character in it.
Real quick though. Okay. There will probably be in this first half some light spoilies about what has already been kind of talked about.
Sure.
In ads, what Marvel is already spoiling themselves. So if
because Marvel's been on a spoil spree lately. So
so if you're on media blackout, just like come watch this after you see the movie. Okay. Well, hopefully you guys are in the same boat. So you'll come back, you'll see it this weekend. This episode will come out next week, and then you'll watch it and be like, oh yeah, I agree.
Well, that's the thing. I'm guessing most people are going to listen and watch this episode after they've already seen the movie.
In the theater
with headphones as a commentary, running commentary. But no, I'd imagine like 95% of people in kind of this episode will be doing it post movie. So this first part will just maybe be like a fun thing to listen to, like how wrong we were, right? Again, yeah.
It's like if you listen to our 2015 episodes about the election of Donald Trump, it's kind of like how that went. So,
so can't believe we had Jim Jordan on as a guest.
That was so weird.
That was bad. Yeah.
You were a big Neil Gorch fan. I can't believe that. We don't need to get into that topic, but
we'll get into it again in 2 years when it happens all over again. So.
But yeah, we'll talk about that later. God kill me. So first things first, I'll eat your brains. Now, first things first, let's talk about expectations.
Expectations?
Okay? Expectations. That's the name of this. That's the name of this segment. So let me start first with my expectations. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you would have asked me like 3 months ago or a year ago, I'm at like sky high expectations. This is like, oh my God, life-changing movie. Whatever. Some of the early reviews have come in and they're like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yep. Yeah.
Which you think it lowers me down here, right?
Yeah.
Except I'm like, ooh, did it get too weird? Like, so it got me a little, it kind of made me fluctuate back and forth. I'm like, ooh, is this like Sam Raimi got a little cute? And people are like, I don't understand. Not that he's like some sort of, I don't know,
anarchist,
David Lynch, like really had no idea what's going on. But yeah, but he could get weird with it. And
he's more of an auteur than we have typically seen in the MCU.
Well,
for sure. With a more distinct style than we usually see.
Well, so do they let him do that though?
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, we've had some auteurs who show up, but then
sure. This is the push and pull. I'm kind of with you in that. I've seen, just as you just alluded to, a very muted response to this movie so far in terms of like
not mutant response,
muted response. Yeah. And you're right that in trying to not engage too much with the in-depth reviews, so just seeing like the blurbs and the brief little things, I've seen a little bit of like, yeah, it's kind of whatever. But there has been a little bit of like, it seems to be there's at least a small contingent of people who seem to be baffled by how Sam Raimi-ish it gets, maybe, and like MCU fans not like, wait, why is the camera moving like that? Why is it like kind of turning into a horror movie in the second half? And if it's that, and if that's what's freaking people out, that's going to actually probably make me happy as a Sam Raimi fan. Like what I've been hoping for is to have something of a Sam Raimi feel to this movie, as opposed to just another, MCU part 34, whatever we're up to, right? 49, 67. I can't keep track anymore, but yeah.
No need to. Well, I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I just continue that thought. Like it is, I thought the first Doctor Strange was okay. It was decent.
I liked it.
I've preferred Doctor Strange in all his like subsequent appearances in the MCU. Sure. I feel like he's always been better bouncing off other characters. So I don't mind that necessarily. I was kind of disappointed when Scott Derrickson left, just because whenever that whole creative differences things comes up, and especially when he was really selling it as like, I want to make MCU's first like horror movie, like because he's he's known for Sinister and Exorcist of L.A. Rose, so he's definitely a horror guy, right? Yeah. And then when he like left the project, I was like, oh man, they balked on that, right? They didn't want to do the horror thing. And then when Sam Raimi came on, it's like, well, that's strange. You're hiring like the Evil Dead guy to like do the movie that you didn't want to be a horror, but then you remember, well, no, you're also hiring the Spider-Man guy, which is obviously the more important element of it. Yeah. So I don't necessarily mind that this movie won't be too much like the Scott Derrickson first one, but I certainly want it to feel like a Sam Raimi movie, at least a little bit.
So I'm going in with fine expectations. I'm not like, it's not like people coming out and saying like, this is gonna change the MCU forever, and you better call your grandma and tell her, see you later, I ain't talking to you no more because I'm watching Doctor Strange every night, which is happens sometimes. That's what they tell you to do, and so I'm kind of like, ooh, people are not gonna like it, but I might be into it just because let's get weird, right? Because here's the thing. I don't know if you call it the problem with the MCU. I'd call it the environment of the MCU is that if this one's like fine or whatever, there's another one like right around the corner. Like there's always the next one, right? Yeah,
which for us is like what, Thor, right? Which everyone's excited about anyways. So you have a backup,
Yeah, you got Thor, you got some of the shows, you have the inevitable X-Men coming in, and so there's always, it's not like you finish a movie and you go, oh shit, that's how they did it, man, I'm gonna have to wait, maybe they'll never make a sequel now because that didn't stick the landing, or I gotta wait 20 years. No, you don't have to wait nothing. It's like right around the corner, and it's comfort, right? It's processed, and it's just like let's see what they do with it. Let's see how weird they let Sam Raimi get with it. And what kind of pops are there going to be? You know, like wrestling, you know, big return at WrestleMania.
Well,
What
that's the thing.
characters are going to show up.
At the same time, that's also like why I think in general, you were just mentioning going into it with like lower expectations or like, you know, the right level of expectations.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about this last episode. Don't you just feel like that's how you have to approach every MCU property now? Like, I don't know that I have.
Yeah.
I'm never going to go see another MCU movie with the same level of like excitement of like the first Avengers or even taking that to Endgame, right? Endgame was a culmination of something, but it was also an end of something. And now I'm pretty much going into all of it flatline a little bit, right? Of saying like, yeah, I mean, it's fine, whatever, you know, because I just can't build up that excitement anymore.
To be frank, I'm actually more excited to go to the movies and like sit in the recliner and get my, you know, Diet Mellow Yellow and some popcorn and like do that than I am to actually see the movie. But yes, I mean, that can be said for any movie, really. To set expectations is the key. But you know, I know that when the X-Men movie comes out, I won't be able to set my expectations properly.
Well, I would say set your expectations too. I hope it's better than the Fox movies.
I thought you were gonna say set your expectations that I live long enough to see it happen. I don't know. You're already
keep drinking those Mountain Dews and Mellow Yellows. I don't know.
So I'm glad. So there's a reason I have a blur on, and there's a reason why I don't show anything over here. I have like 30 Mountain Dew cans just scattering, and I'm at home now, so no one can see this in my office. This is at home. So yeah.
I also think Marvel has put themselves in a, not that they care, because they're going to make millions of dollars no matter what, billions of dollars. But they put themselves into a really tough position with this one, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because the level of expectations this movie has in just what this film is, right? Following No Way Home, which was their first big, like, look at the multiverse, and we brought back your old Spider-Mans, and like, obviously everybody loved that. And it was, you know, it made $1 billion, one of the highest grossing films of all time. And then to be like, we're following that up with another multiverse movie. And of course, as we've seen, and we're about to indulge in this, the entire last year or more has been, what if this character shows up? What if this actor shows up playing this? And then if you go watch a movie, and I'm going to say, like, again, I'm avoiding it for the most part, but I have seen, there seems to be some general vibe now saying, ooh, don't go in expecting a lot of that stuff to happen necessarily that you're predicting. Too many predictions were in play. And that makes the movie seem disappointing to people. So like, again, when I look at, this is where you have to do the push and pull in your head a little bit of seeing, like, as we said, lackluster reactions coming out of the first screenings. But is that because it's a bad movie, or is it because they didn't get every cameo they formed in their head, right?
Yeah. Nicolas Cage didn't show up as Ghost Rider to save the day. They didn't resurrect Stan Lee.
Yeah. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't show up, and, you know, Mac didn't come in on his helicarrier.
And then someone was like, no, I saw Mac. Yeah, he filled my popcorn up. he's got a job at AMC. Yeah, I mean, it's like Lost, right? Everyone knows, fans of the show knows that we're big fans of Lost, and went in with good expectations because we weren't expecting the finale to like say like, oh, the hatch was built by this guy and this was built by and you know, so if you go in thinking, you know, I'm just curious to see a good movie, but then it has to be a good movie, right? So there's a chance that it could falter in both the surprises and as like a fundamental story. But I did like that it's only 2 hours long, like 2 hours 6 minutes, and I was like, okay, so it doesn't seem like too bloated.
No, and that's good news on like the cameo front, because in actuality, when you sit down and think about it, would it be exciting to get all these like interesting, like, if Nicolas Cage showed up as Ghost Rider, would that be cool? Sure. But if you look at a runtime, and I would think if the runtime was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, that's where I'd start to think, oh my God, this is probably nothing but like, now we're in this universe. And it's just like, and at a point, that's only cool like the first time. And then you realize, like, ooh, that doesn't hold up as like a movie, right? Like, this is my issue with No Way Home, which I think is fine. But I do think, and I am starting to see it, and I don't want to sound like I know shit, but I kind of call this a setup. Bet with distance from No Way Home, you're going to see a little bit more criticism of it. And I already have started to see that online, where people are kind of like, oh yeah, it wasn't like the most structurally strong film in the world. It was just so exciting to watch in the theater, you know?
It was candy, right? You know, your tummy's going to get hurt if you eat too much candy, but like watching those cameos and those, I mean, you and I are of that age of the elder millennials who remember Spider-Man, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man in theaters was like the biggest fucking deal. Like that was massive.
Yeah,
was,
especially the second one, Spider-Man 2, man. That like,
man, you youngins who don't remember like having to wait in line to go into the theaters
because you need to get a good seat.
Yeah,
get to the theater 4 hours ahead of time and get in line.
You'd get in theater, and he's not exaggerating. You'd get and you'd sit there and just wait to go into this, get this, and you'd run in and try and get the best seat possible. And God, it was such an event for movies like that. Now I feel like an old man, but yeah. So my expectation is currently like, yeah, we'll get some cameos. I wish that they weren't spoiled for me in the marketing, especially the main one that we've already talked about a few episodes ago. But even that's slightly different now of what that means. So anyways, so expectation, I'm hoping it's good, but I'm downplaying it from like, this is gonna be the greatest movie of all time to what is this going to lead to for a couple characters that I really enjoy, because I like Wanda and I like Strange. So as long as we get some meaty stuff with them kind of taking center stage, I'll be fine. 2 hours, sure, let's do it.
Sure. I think the thing I'm going in, but kind of most already, I got my hackles up about, and I'm kind of most upset about is I was like, I've always been really, very excited that this movie is introducing America Chavez, who's a character I like from the comics. And I don't know if you saw the scuttlebutt about how, again, there was some discussion about like, well, the other countries wanted them to drop the LGBTQ elements. And when I saw that, they said like, well, they just had to drop, or I can't remember if they did drop or they like, were like, we're not going to drop it. But whatever the case, they're like, it's like 30 seconds where America talks about having two moms. And I was like, wait, that's the entirety of like the queer content? And that character is meant to be queer herself. And the only thing in the movie is that she says she has two moms. So like, I'm already getting bummed and like, come on, you're going to bring her in. You're not going to go full front with it. Like, this is what Disney always does, right? They'll pat themselves on the back. Like, we have LGBTQ representation, but they won't actually do it as much as the comics do, you know? So
it was like, oh, we have a first, same-sex kiss. And it's like two pilots in the background.
Yeah.
Full, you have no idea what's even going on or that they're actually kissing. And it's just like, oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit before we get like prediction, like we were just talking about, but spoiler marketing things of who's showing up and how excited you are of that. We've already got Charles Xavier shown, but we saw what Cherry's in, which looks an awful lot like the cartoon chair.
Yeah.
Now, is that just a fun play? Or is it like some people have speculated we're going to get a weird ass cartoon realm?
Right. I kind of hope for the cartoon realm because that would be the goofiest thing you could do in that movie to a certain degree. And I think you should embrace the goofiness of the multiverse, especially when you have Raimi directing it.
Well, I mean, that's what they do in the comics. I mean, fucking X-Babies, right? Like, I mean, the comics, that's what they're built on, is just weird ass. When they do multiverse stuff, they get weird with it.
Yeah. Well, the opposite of, or the version of that you just said, that I was just thinking like a multiverse story in the comics where you turn a page, they go into a new universe, you turn a page, and then it's just like photographs of like the MCU actors with word balloons photoshopped on. Like, that'd be great. They should do that.
They should do that.
But yeah, but I think I'm not surprised that's the chair they're using. I always felt like we were going to get to that chair on screen because you and I have talked about the general pop culture perception of the X-Men is so locked into that 90s version. Yeah. So if you're just thinking like, well, this is going to be our first time showing people Charles Xavier, most of the audience is going to come to see an MCU movie, doesn't care about those other Fox films. They're thinking about the X-Men cartoons. Let's put him in that chair. I don't know if that means he's going to have the chair continuing on or anything like that in other films, or even if it's going to be Stewart in the other films. We don't know any of this stuff yet. But
we don't. We also got you're probably excited about a certain shield showed up. And that was of Captain Carter.
Yeah, this is the one I was always really, really pretty sure was going to be happening. So like,
oh, you think they could get her? You think they could get her to show up?
Well, I just mean like, I don't think that was like, I believe the first episode of What If was that it goes like they were like running, like leading off with it. That was like their proof of concept to a certain degree. People like that character. She had her own TV show. She's, like you said, she's one of those ones who just kind of keeps coming back. There's no reason not to do it. So I'm not I'm not surprised they spoiled that one. Like, I don't get why they're spoiling anything, but that was one where you're like, yeah, I guess, like, you know.
I was already in. They definitely didn't need to, like, the Xavier thing. Fine, because it was the Super Bowl and they wanted the like big talking point to kind of break through.
Yeah.
Then,
Can you imagine if you'd gone tomorrow not knowing Xavier is in it and him showing up? Like, yeah.
I know, it would have been awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one, which was not we don't need to talk about it if you don't know what I'm talking about. The spoiler of which was a non-marketing thing. Do you know which one I'm referring to?
Is there a particular
a fan cast that has been talked about for a long time?
Did the letters FF mean something in this regard?
FF, yes.
Okay, yes.
So, okay. I don't even want to say it, but it was all over Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even realize when I clicked it what I was seeing, and then I saw it. I wish I could see that.
Let's not say it, and let's say at this point we will talk about it in the second half of the episode.
Yeah,
because the second half of the episode will be spoilerific. But
yeah.
So
I that was one I wish I hadn't seen.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
but here's the question about this casting, right? And again, we'll walk around it, but in the context of what this movie is this really, does this mean that this is where they're heading, or is it this is a fun cameo?
Mm-hmm.
It's this version of the character because it's a multiverse version. That's the thing, right? That's the question. So,
okay. My first prediction question to you, and we won't really necessarily know the answer to this except for a ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
How many scenes, and if you want to get specific time, how many scenes will Xavier be in?
So I have a feeling, like because like the way the film will be structured, I have a feeling that like the midpoint of the movie is going to be, but Doctor Strange being brought to a version of like the Illuminati, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, I don't even think when you say scenes, I think it's going to be kind of to me, I think it's going to be like an extended sequence in the middle.
So you think one in that thing, in that one room for a while,
and then that turns into an action sequence with those characters. That's my assumption. Because even some of the footage we saw in these spoilery trailers and things look like they probably are ancillarily related to that sequence. So I think he's going to be there. They're going to be explaining something to him about the multiverse, and then they're all going to get attacked, and you're going to get to see these characters do their things, and then they're going to say like, "You have to leave, Strange. Take America," and whatever the case may be.
Great impression. That was
my impression of the other guy we were talking about. So and then he'll go through a portal or whatever, and then that'll be it. That's what I think. So
all right, my guess, 3 scenes. Okay, we get the one from the trailer. It's a meaty scene with the whole group. I think Strange and Xavier have their own one-on-one conversation somewhere where he does something cryptic, and then some sort of like final shot of Xavier somewhere doing something like either the climax has happened and it's just like, oh, Strange has eaten the burrito, and he's just like, good, well, just as I predicted. So I don't know. So I'm thinking we're getting 3 scenes with him.
If there's a final scene like that, the only thing I could think is if there's like a mid-credit or post-credit scene with Xavier, it would probably be setting up that Doctor Strange has now joined the Illuminati. Right, it would be like him going back there and then being like, "Welcome, Doctor," and like him, giving him a chair, and it's saying, "Oh, okay, this is, that's maybe that."
Okay, prediction. Okay, next prediction question for you. So I saw because they said, "Hey, wait," because I always Google this while I'm sitting in my seat afterwards. How many post-credit scenes are there? There's 2. Okay, give me a prediction of who shows up in these post-credit scenes. Are you thinking it's that scene of him joining the Illuminati? Are we going to get
I think it might be now, because I'll tell you again, and this, I don't know anything for sure. So I'm going off of the way people are reacting, not to what they've said.
Yeah.
If you had asked me this again a week ago, I would have said, well, Deadpool's showing up in a post-credit scene. That's what I've always thought. Like you'd see him come through a portal or something would happen where it's like that sets him up for the next part. Yeah. But I feel like the general reaction of people seeing like TikToks and little Twitter things of people saying like, hey, it's good, but like go in with your expectations, there's been a lot of predictions. I just feel like if Deadpool showed up, people would be a little bit more excited. There is also I was just going to say that there is the question too about some of the reactions we've seen are from critic screenings, and who knows what they had in the critic screening as opposed to the fan screenings. So you never know, but So I would have said Deadpool a week ago, but now I kind of think maybe not. So yeah, I don't know. If in general right now, I think maybe they'll actually do what they should always do and use the post-credit scene to set up the next Doctor Strange film as opposed to just more of the MCU stuff. Or the post-credit scene is going to be, I don't know what you think of this idea. Scarlet Witch's kids grown up to be teenagers.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just to set up more of the Young Avengers. Yeah.
I think we get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Feige and everybody sees dollar signs when they see Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people love subscription-based shit, right?
Yeah.
You get people paying $7 a month. Oh, now it's $10 a month, but look at all this content. That wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd have to keep the actors leaked, or do they go on unknowns? I mean, I guess most of the Young Avengers have been relatively unknown. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been funny, and this is what they should do in a Deadpool movie, or as the second post credit, which is kind of a goof, usually.
Mm-hmm.
It should be Deadpool showing up and him saying like, "Hey, everybody, when you tweet, make sure to say like, yeah, don't tell people that I showed up at the end. Okay, keep that." Because that would be like a meta thing that he would do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to say he's going to show up at a post-credit scene.
Okay.
I don't know. I have nothing. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Except for that there's two. So there's going to be like a one that sets up the next property. You've sold me twice on two different ideas in the last 5 minutes. One being Strange and the Illuminati, and one is Scarlet Witch's kids. But I do think Deadpool as who shows up at that.
So is that for you? Is Deadpool like your most locked in, like biggest cameo now at this point?
Because they don't have to do anything drastic for that, right? Mm-hmm. Ryan Reynolds has the suit. It can be a goof.
Yeah, so and we all know they've already said they're doing Deadpool 3.
So it's all it is just like a fun moment, right? Mm-hmm. There's no pressure on it. It's no like, oh, we have to make sure we have Wolverine cast. Oh, we need to have the Fantastic Four ready. Oh, we need to prep, get Blade's look ready. You know what I mean? It's Deadpool. We know him. His costume's not going to change. His actor's not going to change. The attitude's not going to change. Mm-hmm. They've already hired the director. Just have him pop through a portal and say chimichanga.
Yeah.
And that's it. So I think he shows up in a post-credit scene.
Okay.
I don't know what the first post-credit scene is. It could just be like a little Thor tease, which wouldn't surprise me. So I will predict some sort of Thor tease, and a Deadpool cameo. Those are
or Kang. With more Kang kind of stuff.
Yeah,
because they got to get that ball rolling, Because remember how much they peppered Thanos in throughout the movies before his been. We know Kang is the new Thanos, so
yeah. Is Loki going to show up in Thor 4? He has to.
I don't think so. I think this we'll find maybe be the first Thor without Loki, because Loki is busy in his own little doing the show. You don't need to put him in Thor anymore. So it's a good point.
Okay, so predictions besides the ones we already know of cameos for the MCU. Okay, give me a locked and loaded answer, yes or no. Will we see a cartoon universe?
Okay, I'm going to say yes, but my caveat is going to be, I think there's going to be a scene where they're showing Strange different universes, and that's like the ones
in a portal,
and we quickly see something like that. Not necessarily that there's a whole sequence that goes animated. I don't think we'll get that necessarily. I don't know if the movie's going to be that cool or clever to do that.
You didn't realize this. Branching. This is a branching question. I'm giving you two cartoon options that are shown. X-Men World to tease X-Men 97. Spider-Verse. Even though it's a Sony property, it is still...
it would be X-Men. It would be X-Men for sure. They're not going to do... It won't be Spider-Verse.
Okay. I will say they will not do the cartoon. I say no cartoon.
Okay.
Prediction question for you. Besides Professor Xavier and Deadpool, is there another Fox mutant or Rogue Gallery mutant that will show up?
Rogue Gallery? So there's a bunch of rogues?
A bunch of rogues, yeah.
No, there won't be.
Okay.
I think it's Xavier and maybe Deadpool.
I agree with you. Do we see any of the old guard of MCU actors come in? Do we see a Thor? Do we see Hulk? Do we see RDJ? Or
if any of them, Hulk, because Mark Ruffalo seems to be like, I get the sense Mark Ruffalo just like is constantly like driving by the MCU studios, be like, you guys need me today. Like he seems like Mark Ruffalo seems very down to do it.
I'm doing an independent film about a guy who drank bleach, but if you need me to come play Hulk, I'll do that.
Mark Ruffalo definitely seems to be in that era of actors who just like loves doing this. Actually, like he loves playing this world and like has no compunctions about sticking around. So I could see. And I think there's an element, I know it hasn't been that long since like Endgame, but like attention spans suck now, right? There might be an element of like, we need to remind people about Hulk before She-Hulk. Just
What's
to
Hulk
like
doing?
So I think you might see him.
Now, what about any of the new people? So some of like the phase 3, phase 4 folks.
Oh, you mean the ones we've already met?
I'm talking like people who showed up in phase 3. Like a Captain Marvel or any of her folks, or Shang-Chi, any of the Eternals, anything like that.
I don't think we'll get Shang-Chi. You know, that's another thought for the post-credit sequences. It's always wondering, like, do they want the post-credit scenes to set up the next property or like looking far in advance? It wouldn't be the worst idea in the world to maybe start setting up the Marvels a little bit to some degree. Because again, I feel like Captain Marvel is a character that had her movie, which made $1 billion, but people were kind of all like, yeah, it's fine, you know, kind of iffy on it. And then she was just kind of like the Deus Ex Machina in Endgame a little bit. Wouldn't be the worst idea to give her like some kind of sequence at the end to just kind of start getting people back into that character a little bit to start setting up the next piece.
Lock it in. Does she show up?
I'll say actually, yes. I actually think I would imagine we might see Captain Marvel. So I'll lock it in since you're requesting I lock it in. But but if I had to pick like another person beyond, I think Hulk and Captain Marvel would be the two existings. I don't think we'll get RDJ. I don't think we're going to get Captain America back. I wouldn't want Captain America had such a good ending. I don't know if I'd want to. That's why I've always said Chris Evans, if he's in it, should be Human Torch. I don't even necessarily think that's going to happen anymore because I feel like they're at this point that would have been spoiled probably. But I wouldn't want them to blow like the return of Captain America on like a little jokey multiverse scene in that regard. So no, I think it's Hulk and Captain Marvel are your two best options.
I think Captain Marvel does show up in Thor, but not here.
Okay.
I think Bruce Banner might show up as a different alternate reality of something else, where they're like, "Well, we have our Dr. Banner." It's like, "Oh, the Hulk," and they're like, "No, it's just."
What do you think about this? Gray Hulk.
Oh yeah, that could be cool.
Like in the suit, you know, wearing like the suit, like when he was Mr. Fix-It from the comics.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
What I think happens, there's going to be a joke where I think it'd be funny if Sam shows up as Captain America and Strange doesn't know that he's got the mantle now and thinks it's another like alternate reality.
But why wouldn't Strange know that? That makes Strange seem like he's not paying attention to the news, you know?
Oh, well, that's a good point. Yeah.
Sam was on. Remember Sam gave that speech on. He gave that speech on TV that everybody in the world saw.
Yeah, it was a bad speech too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
Bad speech. Yeah, it's a good point.
Everybody happened to be watching news or TV at like 11 p.m. on that night. Here's the big one, Joe. I want to see are you willing to lock in? What do you think about Tom Cruise as Iron Man? The most heavily rumored one for the past
I think
years.
There's no reason for him not to do it. Like that's like he doesn't have to commit to anything. He just like has the little green screens, he puts the suit on, but it doesn't actually have to do anything because he could fly around. Because that was the thing about RDJ is like, well, you don't actually have to do anything. It's all, once. Yeah. And then
so you're locking in yes?
I'll lock in yeah.
Okay. I am going to lock in no on that. And I want to see it. If I hope I'm wrong on this one because that's the one that's one I really want to see. And I agree with you that he has no reason not to do it. I wonder if, again, I'm basing it entirely off of not specifics, but just seeing people kind of coming out of it being like,
oh yeah,
and I just wonder if they're too precious with that character to like where even though they realize even though the fans all seem to think that's a fun idea, if they're like, well, yeah, but we don't want to like. RDJ was that character, like
it'd be funny if like they had a different Iron Man and it was like someone way less famous. Like
it's like Peter Facinelli.
It's Sawyer from Lost shows up and they're like, oh geez. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay. Do any main characters die in this movie?
Well, what do you mean by main characters?
People that we've established.
If any main character is going to die in this movie, it would be Wong.
They're not gonna kill Wong.
Well, this is what I'm about to say. I was gonna say it's because they know they've gotten to a point now where people like love Wong, right? They've made Wong like so beloved.
Yeah.
And I only say if you could use that as like, and I don't put it past Marvel to do this. It's the cheap heat thing of let's kill Wong and have the movie end on a cliffhanger that insinuates there's some way to save Wong, to bring him back. And that's setting up the next Strange thing, right? So it's the Wrath of Khan to search for Spock, I'm not saying I think that's going to happen. To answer your question, I think that's the only question that would die. There's no other major character who I think.
Rachel McAdams is going to be there.
Oh, you said major character. Zing. I was actually going to ask you, how many scenes do you think she's going to be in?
I think she's going to have 3 scenes. Will she talk to anybody but Dr. Strange?
Yeah, do you think Rachel McAdams remembers that she made this movie? Do you think, or is there a scene entirely comprised from re-edited footage from like Wedding Crashers outtakes?
I have to go to my home now. Oh man, I had such a crush on her in Wedding Crashers. Mm-hmm. I think everybody did. What a performance! What a role!
Now, I actually do have another. I don't know if you care if I say this, because based on a tweet I read which made me laugh, there is another returning character from the first movie, a minor one. So I don't think it matters if I say this. It's another character that's from Doctor Strange's past. You want me to say it?
Is it Benjamin Bratt?
It's not. No, it's someone else. But this isn't a spoiler by any means. I just read a tweet that said it was somebody like seeing the movie at like some New York theater, and he was like, "Oh, I knew I had a good Doctor Strange audience when the credit with Michael Stuhlbarg got applause."
Oh, someone did mention I did see a tweet. I don't remember him he played another doctor. Another doctor. Yeah, of course. That's funny. Mm-hmm.
Here's a question, Joe.
Okay.
If you want to try to lock this in, who do you believe is the main villain in this film?
Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange from another universe is.
Do you think it's the zombie Doctor Strange from the not the zombie, but the evil one from What If?
Yeah. Okay. I think that's the thing, which is not the big reveal, right? Because they will probably know that early on. So who is the big baddie behind that? I don't know. I wouldn't have even. I don't know. But I'm curious. Who do you think the big baddie is?
Well, because I see people keep saying Nightmare, but like a multiverse plot doesn't seem to make much more sense for like Nightmare as a villain.
Yeah.
So I could see it just being the kind of predictable thing of it's actually Mordo who's like pulling the strings behind all this. I know we know he's in it. He's in the trailer.
Yeah.
He's already been set up to. I mean, you would assume he'd be the main villain in the third one because he seems like a trilogy capper. But I mean, if he's just meant to be the reveal at the end, like, I was doing all this, then that's most likely what it is.
I mean, which is fine, right? Because he's, Chewie 4 is such a great actor, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, I'm fine with that. But
yeah,
how many Doctor Stranges do you think we see? Like different Doctor Stranges?
A bunch, I think, but like a lot of them are going to be like kind of brief, like kind of little comedic things. I think the 2 main ones that are going to be other characters in the film are going to be the zombie Strange and the evil Strange.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I need to go back and watch What If before.
No, I will never.
I
didn't finish it either. Yeah.
No.
If they're doing their job, you should, whatever they introduce in this movie, you shouldn't have to have seen What If.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. We barely talked about Scarlet Witch.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already gone pretty far into this episode. We have a whole another half to do. So I'm going to ask a few questions about Scarlet Witch. Is she so do you think that she gets her children back in this movie?
I don't think she gets her children back. I think at the end we see the children, but she still doesn't know about it. Because I think you save that reunion for a later thing. I think you save it for a Young Avengers film or a Scarlet Witch movie. Yeah.
Does Vision survive at the end of this? Is he back from his?
Oh, I don't think we see Vision in this.
You don't think we see Vision at all?
No, White Vision is still out there, obviously somewhere, but I don't.
That's what I meant, White Vision.
Yeah, but I don't think we see him in this yet. Because again, I think they know how much people loved WandaVision. Elizabeth Olsen has been. She also seems to me like she's she gets what a gift this character is. I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon. I think they can play the long game with Scarlet Witch a little bit in Wanda. So I don't think they have to do everything in this movie with her.
All right. Do we get a Quicksilver or anything? Mention or cameo?
Mention, sure. She'll say something about her brother being dead, but
Pietro.
Are you asking, are we going to get Pete Boners showing up, or what was it? Ralph Boners, whatever.
Ralph Boner.
Sorry, Pete Boners was the Pete Boners was the director of Police Academy 5. I can't believe it. Yeah. So,
what was the Boner joke from Family Ties? What was it? His character was? What was his first name? Not Family Ties.
No, it was Growing Pains.
And Alan Thicke was saying, "Oh, Boner."
Yeah, no, he was called Boner because his last name was like Boner Relly or something like that. Yeah,
Boner.
Boner.
I don't think this is going to happen, but I'm going to throw out there as prediction. I'm already locking it in. No, any chance of Magneto or a mention of Scarlet Witch's parentage coming into play?
I think the only way they could do that is for her to see that there's an alternate version of her that has that parentage. Because I don't think this Scarlet Witch is going to have that parentage, but the multiverse thing does allow you to, say like, oh, in another universe. You know what might be interesting is actually, because Elizabeth Olsen did just recently do an interview. This is me. They're not doing this stuff. I always do this. I do this comic book thing of formulating plans and storylines in my head that I think would be interesting. Because we talked long ago about using Wanda to be the instrument to bring mutants into the Marvel universe, right? Which I don't think they're going to do. But Elizabeth Olsen again has said that she wants to someday say no more mutants on screen. Like she really, because you can always tell when she talks about this that like when she first got the role, they gave her like 3 graphic novels that she read, and those are the ones that really stuck with her, like those storylines. But she knows how impactful that was. She knows how big House of M was, and she wants to do that someday. So I think it'd be interesting if you had. They won't do this, but what if she like had a moment where because she's Wanda, she can peek into the different multiverses and like take it all in, right? And mentally, she gets like the whole brunt of it. And she sees like a universe with the mutants and where she is Magneto's daughter. And in that moment, everything about like how much it sucked for her in that universe and everything terrible that version of Magneto did, that like kind of gets ingrained on her, so that this version of Wanda now has just a natural, like, she doesn't like mutants, right? She just has a problem with them. So you're setting that up for later. That's the kind of thing I would do if I got to sit in a room and pitch things. Yeah. And then they would probably be like, shut up, nerd. Like, so.
I probably made this joke many times on this podcast, but what if she says, no, more mutants? And that's how we get them. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Anything else you want to say pre-screening?
I think I'm just kind of good to go and check it out. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say even excited is the right word. I think there's a little bit of obligation with MCU at this point. But I'm looking forward to the talk afterwards and seeing what we were right about and what we were wrong about. So
yeah.
I'm definitely more excited for Thor than I am for this one. That's what I'll say for that.
I'm more excited for this than I am Thor.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
I think just like the Taika Waititi element trumps all this guessing about multiverse stuff and everything for me.
Yeah. I get that though. I get it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'll see you in 10 seconds when we come back from break.
Yep.
You're supposed to do it with me.
Oh, man.
Right. No. Well, too bad. Too late.
All right. Well.
2 hours later.
Whoa. Welcome back.
See, I got it synced up that time.
You did. Yeah. Wow. Nice job. Mm-hmm. So, this is part 2, but part same for you guys.
Yeah.
2 seconds have passed, but for us, it's been
seamless.
4 days.
We've been through a whole trip through the multiverse.
So, what an interesting movie, and I want to start with letting people know that we have both seen it. We are going to be getting into spoilies.
Yes, okay? This is spoiler rich.
Hey, name's Spoiler Rich. Nice to meet you. Like he's like a superhero who just spoils things.
It's Rich Eisen. He just goes around.
Rich Eisen. He knows his superpower is knowing what thing you want to watch or read or listen to or consume next, and he's gonna spoil it for you.
Joe, I have a really important question for you before we get into Doctor Strange spoiler talk.
Yeah,
they still do the fun Sports Center commercials, or is Sports Center even like a thing anymore, or is that just a thing in the past?
I think they definitely have done some, but the campaign has kind of shifted. But you'll see some. The ESPN like is losing money,
of course,
like hand over fist, because they built these giant studios, and then everybody was like, yeah, that's all well and good, but I'm okay watching content that someone else recorded off the TV. So I don't need fancy. I just need quick. And so they've been just replaced by Twitter, right? You don't need Sports Center. So
if ESPN ever needs a new b-ball correspondent to start turning things around, they know who to come to.
we got our a man on the scene on the b-ball court.
LeBron James Harden, Spud Webb. See, I can do it now.
Yeah, Spud Webb. You got the third.
Yep.
Spud Webb the third is probably playing. So I want to start by saying I had a really great experience. Like not talking about the movie, just a great theater experience. They delivered my concessions. And
so I've never gone to a theater that does that. And I have to work because I know one of the big chains that is all about that is the Alamo Drafthouse, which unfortunately I've never had an opportunity to go to.
Oh, it's great.
But I can ask you about this more directly. I've always found it strange that I know Alamo Drafthouse has the very strict no talking rule, no cell phones rule. But then like 20 minutes into the movie, they just have waiters come in and put food down. I mean,
so it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And Imagine does it now too, where they're like, we don't need to cram everybody in, right? We're not going to sell out the theater. So we might as well expand the space to give room for the wait staff and more leg room and all that jazz, right? And so Alamo Drafthouse, when I lived in Texas, was like top notch. Loved it.
Yeah, I wish I had one. Yeah,
it was great. Now Imagine, which is a chain up by us, has started doing it, and I didn't even ask for it. We got there. It was like a 5 o'clock showing Friday after work, $5 tickets, right? Yep. And then my wife went and got a Long Island iced tea, which she does daily basis. That's for another episode, though.
Yeah, your wife has a problem. I know.
Just kidding. Good thing she has zero concept that what this podcast is. But it was dinner time. The kids were doing, at grandma's house. And so my wife got soft pretzels and I got Bosco sticks. And they said, where are you sitting? And I said, I'm sitting over here. And they said, we'll bring it up to you. You go watch the ads. You go watch the trailers. We'll get to you. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And they did. And it was amazing. And it was piping hot. And I had a recliner with the heated seat. Premium.
Okay. All right. Premium. I'll take your word.
Mellow Yellow Zero to drink.
Not surprised.
And some Reese's Pieces because this is dinner time, right? So I had to go all in on these calorie intake. So that's what I did. Yep. How was your theater experience? Let me guess, you probably pirated it and watched it on your cell phone.
No, I did go to the earliest. I did go to the earliest morning show I could go to, so it wasn't very.
Oh, the morning show.
Yeah. It wasn't. I mean, it was about. I'd say a little half or a little under half full. But that's definitely the time I like going. It's as you said, like a lot of years. That's when the tickets are a little cheaper. During the day. And you're just not dealing with as much of the crowd. So it was a fine theater experience. There, it's not where I'm down living right now in Virginia. I'm not going to name what the theater chains are, but I'm not too impressed with any of them. I don't have an AMC here, which AMC was always my go-to just because AMC has the best like subscription deal. And I found like other theater chains, their subscription deals aren't anywhere close to as generous with
AMC will show some weird movies too.
Yeah, AMC does their whole like they're like little I can't remember what it's called. They're like
Selects
AMC
or something like
so
that.
Like Prestige. I remember everyone freaked out because they put the Batman in that because they were like, well, it looks like an art film, I guess. It's like it's the Batman. I mean, come on.
The Batman.
But yeah, no, I enjoy AMC's and yeah, but whatever. The theater experience was fine. I had no complaints. I'll talk about the audience reaction as we talk about the movie, obviously, but it wasn't like a too rowdy crowd or nobody was talking, nobody was on their phone. So yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. So the movie itself, I think we kind of nailed a few things.
A few. We were definitely off about a lot too.
When it comes to the muted early reviews, I think we nailed it.
Yeah, well, let me just say, we said that we were going in with lower expectations because we'd seen a lot of people have kind of muted reviews. I just want to say to those people, you nailed it. You were dead on.
Oh, you liked the mute, so you agree with the muted reviews?
Well, we'll talk more about it. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. the first thing I want to ask before we get into like plot and things like that is the big controversy, which is not a controversy at all, really. It's just another talking point, is that this is rated PG-13. And some folks think that it should be rated a little higher. I definitely don't think it should be rated higher. No. It definitely had some moments, though, where I went, "Oh, holy shit!" Like, which
I guess, but I mean,
you're a horror fiend, so you've been desensitized and probably.
But it's not even about that, because I'm also, in terms of being a horror fiend, I also love gateway horror. I'm a big proponent of PG and PG-13 horror, because I think young kids. Look, here's what I think. I think there's, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot if you get me going on horror films. I think in the last decade or so, there's been a real, or probably even a little bit beyond that, there's been too much of a push to make sure kids don't see any of that, or like act like kids don't like to be scared, which I know is ridiculous. That's when you're a kid, is typically when you get into horror. Kids like being scared, and you and I grew up of a generation where there's a little bit of a difference. But I mean, films like Gremlins, Monster Squad, Goonies, Temple of Doom.
Ernest Scared Straight.
Scared Stupid. Ernest Scared Straight's the one where he has the crippling heroin addiction. Yeah.
That one. That one was great.
John Cherry, creator of Ernest, just passed away a couple days ago. So
rip.
Rest in peace. But anyways, yeah. So I mean, those movies were so much more intense than this movie was.
Yeah.
And I think whenever I see that discussion, and you said, like, how big of a controversy is it really? Because everything that's a Twitter controversy is probably 0.5% of the full population. But it just sounds like a bunch of babies who only, and this is the problem. And I've seen people say this, and I agree. This is what happens when your entire media diet is only Marvel. And then suddenly one's a little bit more extreme. You'll go, oh my God, I can't. But it's like, that's really nothing compared to so many other movies, and kids can take it. Trust me. It's maybe like under 10, maybe it's a little intense at times, but beyond that, it's fine.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, I was like, oh, I definitely would show this to my almost 10-year-old. They watch some weird ass stuff on YouTube. With that Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's always like these parents who are complaining about it. I guarantee your kids are watching scarier.
Yeah, they don't know their kids, or they don't have kids, and they're just like remembering what it was like to be.
They're looking for something to complain about.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's kind of strange that's like
Doctor Strange.
I think that's Doctor Strange. That's the topic that we take away from this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do some broad strokes just for those who didn't see the movie and are just more interested in the review. So, Doctor Strange, the movie starts with inside of another reality, another multiverse, where another Doctor Strange and America Chavez are being chased by this demon, and they're trying to get to this book of Vishanti, which is supposed to be this, cure all, lets the sorcerer do whatever they want when they get a hold of it. Right. But they're losing. They're not going to make it. And this Doctor Strange is like, I have to kill you, America, because I can't let the demons get your power. And she's like, what the fuck? Well, it doesn't really work out that way. He dies, and she gets flung through to another reality. And it is our MCU, which they're calling the 616. I wish they would have called it a different number.
I know.
Separated from the comics.
I do too. Yeah. I mean, whatever. That's a tiny thing, but I kind of with you. Yeah.
And so what this kind of sets up, what we learn, come to find out, is that America Chavez, this young girl, probably, I don't know, early teens, 14, 15, maybe, is her power is the ability to kind of jump through the multiverse, to go from universe to universe. It's a cool effect of this like star that kind of comes behind her, but she can only kind of control it in theory when she's afraid. And so she ends up in our MCU universe, meets up with our Doctor Strange after a fight, and is like, hey, this demon's chasing me. Doctor Strange decides, hey, I know who I should go to. I should go to the next, one of the most powerful spellcasters who deals with demons, and that is Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch. Little did he know that she actually
was kind of the person who's trying to chase after America Chavez, because
It's been Wanda all along.
It's been Wanda all along,
yes.
and she is after America Chavez so that she can get to her boys.
Because she's discovered that by peering into the multiverse, because as we learn in this, a new story development or idea, that anytime you dream, that is actually you connecting to yourself in another universe.
In theory.
And Wanda has been able to see that the suns that everyone has told her are completely made up, that she created, they actually exist in every other universe. And so she wants to try and get to one of those universes to take them.
So there we have now the crux of the story is Strange, America being chased by Wanda through the multiverse. With the end game being getting Billy and Tommy.
And one thing before we get into our thoughts on the movies or the movie itself, which I will say is I do give them credit for pretty much keeping that under wraps this entire time. You know, I don't think anyone went in knowing that Wanda was the entire villain of the film. I think that was one of our questions. Who do you think the villain is?
Yeah.
And I think everyone just assumed this would be, I think we all thought Wanda would have some like issues in this film, but I always assumed she'd be the sidekick kind of along for the ride.
I always assumed she'd be the third party between the good and the evil that they both were kind of trying to control, similar to like a X-Men Last Stand Jean Grey, where she's kind of caught in the middle, but that wasn't the case.
Nope.
Before we get into like specific scenes, I just want to get a general overview. I'll go first since you kind of teased yours already. I loved it.
Okay.
I had a great time. Multiple times in the theater, I was like audibly like, oh my gosh, oh, that's cool. Whoa, that's sweet. Which I haven't done in a Marvel movie in a long time. I really liked Scarlet Witch in this. Now, some of her motivation was a little goofy. I kept waiting for the switcheroo, I've been controlled the whole time. And she even kind of like teased it herself. Like in the first like 30 minutes, she said like the way she said nightmare was like I was like, okay, I gotcha. And it never came. She just was the villain the whole time. I loved the small Sam Raimi moments, the POVs, the practical makeup, some of the goofiness to intercut some of the scariness. I thought it was a really fun vision that he had. I think I can tell when Scott Derrickson decided not to do this film. And Raimi was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm going to do some of my weird visual stuff, but yeah, I'll tell your stuff. I'll dabble in this world. I also, in hindsight, realized, I think, why they gave so much of the Illuminati away, because it was so inconsequential. It was such a letdown. Like, I thought that was gonna be my favorite part of the movie. That part sucked. Like, that was like such a letdown. That I loved everything around it, but those like 10-15 minutes inside that universe was just really bad. And I was like, oh, I think they saw that and we're like, well, we'll just use that in the marketing because it's not gonna land. And so if you were expecting all these giant cameos, they were like, well, that's all we really got is the cameo for that part. So there's nothing that's good enough. So let's do it. And I bet I could see like someone like Derrickson just being like, I'm not going to tell that. I'm not going to truncate my movie right in the middle of the movie, do this weird thing that
I used to think, because I've wondered, it's one of two things right now. I know which one I'm leaning towards about Derrickson leaving. Because, obviously when Derrickson first announced this movie, he's the guy that did Sinister and Exorcism of Emily Rose. And he was always like, I'm going to make the first Marvel horror movie. And he was very dead set on that. That's how this is going to be a scary, intense Marvel movie, and they left over creative differences. And my assumption at the time was like, oh, they didn't let him go as horror as he wanted. And now I think it's probably more that he wanted to make Doctor Strange 2 and he didn't want to do the WandaVision sequel. I think that's probably more the case.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Mhm.
So I want to hear your thoughts.
So I actually love all the same things you just mentioned. I think Elizabeth Olsen and Scarlet Witch are by far the actress and the character is by far the MVP of this movie. I think it's a great Wanda movie. I love all the Sam Raimi flourishes when they occur. I mean, I'm with you in thinking you can definitely see some sequence where you're like, oh, that was like pre-vised already before Raimi came on. And then there are other moments, and I think it is a case of he came onto this late in the process. Like the best case scenario for this would be maybe he gets to now build one more from the ground up himself. If he stays with the MCU. So I like a lot of the same things, but the thing I keep coming back to is I find this movie to be pretty underwhelming. Actually, this is pretty like lower mid-tier MCU for me. And I think it's that, me, I'm a Raimi boy. I love Raimi.
Yeah,
and as I said, there's so many sequences in this where the movie just comes to life and it's, oh my God, this is Raimi and it's so great. And this is some of the best, most visually dynamic, fun, sequences we've seen in the MCU, period. Thinking of the reflection sequence, which is awesome. The musical notes battle, which is so awesome.
So good.
But in general, I watch this movie and I feel like it's very much a director battling and trying to save a pretty bad script. And I think to me, I'll give you my three biggest problems and we can dissect and talk about more little things here and there.
Yeah.
The script in general, I think, is very just poorly written. I think it's just like poorly struck. Like the dialogue, there's so many long, boring, dumb exposition dumps. It's a very haphazard script. This is kind of connected to that. I think for a movie that calls itself Multiverse of Madness and is following not only No Way Home, but also has, I'm sorry, I know this maybe isn't unfair, but has the problem of having to follow everything everywhere all at once, which just did so much creative stuff with the multiverse, right? And then also No Way Home, back to the MCU, used the multiverse to create this like super gigantic event of like bringing in past film franchises, right? In a bigger and like a huge way. And the one thing that they did with that here, they gave away in the trailer already, right? But beyond that, it doesn't take advantage of the multiverse concept at all, barely. I mean, you get the one quick thing, and but then the universe we spend the most time in. This is a $200 million movie. It should be so creative, and they're like, what about a universe where green means stop? Like that's their big thing, and I was like, really? And then most of the time in that universe, the next one, we spend most of our time just inside rooms. Yeah. So I thought this movie really failed its premise and its concept and didn't do what it should have with that. If you're going to call yourself that, you would need to push it more. And my final problem, and this is not a problem with the performer, as is often the case, MCU, usually nails casting. And I think they come up with these actors who you can't wait to see in further ventures. Because you're like, I like them enough, they're charismatic enough. But America Chavez in this as like the crux of the story, I just felt was such a nothing character.
Is she that young in the comics?
Yeah, she's pretty. She debuted young in the comics. She was part of like the the kind of the Young Avengers, and her story, like idea is the same. The ability to hop through universes, the thing with her parents, her being raised in a alternate dimension. That's all dead on. As I predicted in our first part, I was very upset that they. She's wearing a small pride pin, and that's about as far as they're willing to push that. No dialogue about it. That's Disney gonna Disney. But I even just feel beyond that, she was a MacGuffin. She was definitely a MacGuffin with not much to her. And I think ultimately I saw like a fun little thing on, I can't remember if it was a tweet or on Reddit, but it was something like the basic crux of the film is like, I can't use my power. I don't know how to use my power. And then Dr. Strange is saying, but actually you can. And then she goes, true. And then that's it. That's like how it resolves, So yeah, it's a bad script. So that's what let me down by it.
There definitely there were definitely bad dialogue moments.
Yeah.
And I don't like, you can go back and find these episodes. I don't like Benedict Cumberbatch like as an actor.
Mm-hmm. This is really the only character he does that I do. I enjoy him in. Yeah.
That's the thing is I do like him as Doctor Strange, which I don't know exactly what that means, but there were some really, really bad, and some of the things they didn't do, right? Yeah. That I thought were really strange. But I thought that Raimi's direction made up for it
Mhm.
personally. I really want to talk about the Illuminati section though.
Yeah,
Like,
of course. I mean, what else is there to talk about? So,
this is such a letdown.
mhm.
That section was like really bad.
It's really bad, like on a visceral level, on a screenplay level. I have like one of the dumbest things that happens in the movie happens in that section. Actually, I'll just say it because I'm sure we'll talk about it. But the idea that Wanda would use her godlike powers to literally change the corporeal like form of people to murder them, like with no effort, right? She can take away your mouth, she can turn you into string cheese. And then for some reason, she spends the next 3 minutes letting another character throw a shield at her and fights them in hand-to-hand combat. Like that kind of stuff. Maybe I'm being overly pedantic, but I don't think so. That kind of stuff bugs me. We're just like, what?
Yeah,
Like
If they were trying to like make me want those characters to come back, utter failure. Like that to me just killed Krasinski as
Mhm.
Reed Richards. I don't want to see that ever again.
Mhm.
Like I was like, no, I'm out. I already wasn't a fan of Captain Carter. Obviously not a fan of Black Bolt. I did like the effect though when he died. I thought it looked cool.
The fact that they like bothered to get the guy from like the Inhumans TV show is also like very funny. Like,
I can't believe they got him.
Well, I know, yeah, but I mean,
He
just
was
like
in an ad for this Star Trek show. Was an ad right before the movie, and I was like, I wonder if we're gonna see him in this. And then like the Mordo fight in there too was like, but to me they were like, this needs to happen. You need to tell this part of the story,
Mhm.
and I could just see, someone who's not as far in their career as Raimi as Derrickson is, right? Because Sam Raimi's been through the ringer of already being like shit on by everybody.
Yeah, having his baby taken away from him with Spider-Man 3. Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, you want me to do that? Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, go ahead. Do I get to do a fun musical note fight? Yeah, okay. I'll have this weird pit that they just fall into and fight in, but it's not like even that deep of a pit. It's just like a mild inconvenience. Like, what's that gonna stop? If this is what is it there for? And it was just that part really,
It was weird. It made
really
like I said, it made the Illuminati seem really dumb.
Yeah,
There's that moment where like Lashana Lynch's Captain Marvel's like, we can handle your little witch. She's so, why does she think that? Like, and then they're immediately just like Wanda just immediately like wipes out 3 of them. Like, what was she thinking?
It's like in wrestling, like when someone gets buried and they're like, oh, that wrestler can never that person's done. They'll never be able to. The Illuminati cannot be in the MCU again.
And to your point about Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, do you ever have that thing where like people fan cast something for so long and think, oh, man, it's a decent idea, and then you see it and realize, oh, in practice, that person's like not good casting.
Well,
right?
the thing,
like I don't know if it's Krasinski's fault or if it's the script, because he said nothing in dialogue wise that made him sound smart. Like nothing about him seemed like Reed Richards. Yeah.
No, nothing made him seem like Reed Richards. His power didn't, like, it wasn't like, oh, what a, like a Quicksilver, like, oh, what a cool power, and it bombed that.
I have a friend who actually Chris, my co-host on my other podcast, we were talking about the movie afterwards, and he said like this just made him more convinced that power will like never look cool on screen. Like even if the MCU, they barely did anything with it. Maybe it's just because they know, like, well, it is silly, right? It's like it's hard.
That's why Kamala Khan's not going to do it. Like she doesn't. She's like a.
She has like a new like energy power or something.
Yeah. So some of the things though that I loved. Okay, the music note fight,
incredible. Yeah, such a great idea.
So good. And I can't believe that I like this. Like, if you just would have explained it to me, I would have been like, you are insane. The zombie Doctor Strange and that whole moment, and when he gets the ghoul cape, and amazing.
Yeah, that's when it just turns into Army of Darkness for a bit. Yeah, so
good. And what I also loved was Wanda showing up in just her normal like suburban housewife, like jeans and a t-shirt. Looked great. I think, and and if you listen to this podcast or now watched this podcast for the last 6 years or whatever, I'm not a fan of Scarlet Witch as a comic character or in many of her MCU movies. WandaVision was good, but everything else I don't really care about. But I really dug Elizabeth Olsen in this. I thought she did a really, really good job. And I thought that Doctor Strange went on enough of a journey to emotionally. You don't think
Did you? Like, I didn't think he had much of an arc. I didn't think he had much of an arc in this. Like, what's his arc? Like, what's different about him?
I think his arc. Well, I think he came to terms with certain things that he can and can't handle, right? That he can and can't fix. I think
they did that dumb, like, it's like the ultimate, like, cheesy, like, writing metaphor of like, oh, he has a broken watch. Well, if we show him fix the watch at the end, that tells the audience that he, like, something changed about him. But I'm just like, well, but like what? Like he helped save a young girl, but in the last time we saw him, he helped save a young man. It's like he's just
but I do think that he gave up. I know what you're saying, and there definitely are moments that it doesn't work. To me, it was enough. Mm-hmm. To me, the idea of giving up power to succeed, as heavy-handed as it was, right? I thought it worked.
I also think it's funny how sometimes the MCU's like demand and necessity to like right away preview the next thing can sometimes undercut what they are doing in the moment.
Sure.
And I don't know about you, but I
was
kind of
surprised by that.
I laughed out loud in the theater when the movie ends, the movie proper ends with Strange screaming bloody murder in pain in this middle of the street and the third eye forms. You go, oh my God, what's happening? Is he turning evil? What a cliffhanger. And then the next mid-credit sequence, just walking down the street, it's all fine now. It's like, oh, I guess that wasn't a problem. Like, it's just like, what?
So
like,
confusing.
It was so weird, so strange.
Honest to goodness, my thought was, oh, was this supposed to be the post credits for Thor 4 and they had to shift it up or something? Because it didn't make any sense. Yeah, I was so confused by that. Mm-hmm. I was so confused, and I didn't know who that character was. I had to look it up later. I had no idea.
So the other big one, we can spoil it, right? It's Charlize Theron as Clea. So again, they did a good job of keeping that under wraps, I suppose, that they signed another huge talent for a significant role.
She's great. I'd watch her in anything.
Yeah.
I thought I wish I could remember some of the lines that were just so bad. The memory scene, right, didn't work, right? The dialogue around it could have worked, but the dialogue around it didn't. When they could step on this thing and see their memories and stuff like that. Rachel McAdams was in more than 3 scenes.
She was to what purpose? I don't know.
Passed the Bechdel test, right? She had conversations with America.
But weren't they usually talking about Doctor Strange?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Anyways,
I mean, we are 2 movies in, and I don't think we're not going to see Rachel McAdams again, right? Because I mean, we're 2 movies in, and they have not given us any reason to believe that Strange would be like this in love with this character. Like, it's just nobody seems that invested in this character. Like, on the
you weren't invested by the end of this.
No. In Christine, no. You were.
Well, I'm invested in Rachel McAdams. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think. The Michael Stuhlbarg.
Did you notice he had the with credit in the end credits? It was with Michael Stuhlbarg, which I thought was like, what? He's got a great agent, I guess.
I was like, was it because is it like, oh, you have an Oscar nomination, so you gotta be.
But like, he does get one of the. I mean, for a screenplay that's filled with like terrible dialogue and moments like that, like it was actually a really effective moment. His little bit where he says, during the 5 years I lost my pets and my brother. That turn was like a really nice turn, but I didn't know
my audience didn't know what to do. They were like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what Raimi was going for, right? I will also, in terms of things we liked, I'm sure we're going to get to it eventually, but because I've seen some people complain in particular about the post credit scene. I will fight anyone who does not like Pizza Papa. Like, Pizza Papa can get his own Disney Plus show. I'm down for it.
I did like America Chavez being like, he's like, you didn't pay for that? She's like, oh, a lot of universes you don't have to pay for food. And then he's like, hey, you have to pay for that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
She definitely didn't have the same pluckiness that you would have expected a character like this, like as the youthful person in a movie like this. I mean, you could think of a million examples of the plucky young upstart. She was a little more understated.
Yeah, I think to make her more interesting, you almost needed, because she's very antagonistic with Strange at first because the other Strange tried to kill her.
Sure.
And she gets over it a little too quick. I think, and I know it's like a trope, but I think if she was a little bit more reluctant to go along with him through more of the movie, so that at the end, when she does say, no, he's a hero and I trust him, it would be more impactful if we hadn't just seen her be buddy with him for about like half an hour at that point. I mean, I think we needed her to be more pulled along on this journey. So yeah, I mean, I like I said, I'm interested to see what they do with her next, but I don't think that's just because by knowing the character from the comics and liking the performer. I don't think this movie necessarily did anything to make me an America Chavez fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think I was just really excited about the Sam Raimi stuff.
Yeah.
I think I liked this more than Homecoming.
Homecoming or No Way Home?
I get so confused. It's really fucking pissing me off. The latest Spider-Man.
No, I definitely like that more. But
Yeah.
so far this entire phase, like none of them have blown me away. Like looking at my rankings, and I know I'm sure some people think this sounds crazy, but I think actually the one I've liked the most this phase is Black Widow, and I don't even think that's a great movie. I just think what I liked about it was that it did feel the most disconnected from everything.
Yeah.
It just really felt like its own kind of singular, fun spy movie, kind of low stakes, and that's kind of what I wish more MCU movies were now.
But you haven't seen Eternals yet.
I haven't seen Eternals yet, no.
It's beautiful.
But I've liked the ones I see. Like I liked Black Widow, I liked Shang-Chi, I liked No Way Home. I liked this. I'm not saying I didn't like it, but
yeah.
I think this phase has been weird because it's a hard phase to get into because it doesn't really seem like it's all heading somewhere. Like Kang hasn't become enough of an overall threat or even idea yet enough to seem like these are all leading to something. So even though like this movie was very much a WandaVision sequel, no doubt about it, but still like in general, these aren't connecting too much in a larger way. And I mean, I guess it's okay after post Endgame, but also because Endgame was such this exciting culmination of, 10 years. Now it's just, we were just saying right now, you're just kind of like, all right. And so it's a little harder to be impressed. And that's why one thing I wanted to ask you about, like, okay, so Tom Cruise's Iron Man did not show up.
Yep.
The Deadpool did not show up. We didn't get any, like, the Krasinski one was the big one, obviously. Hulk. Do you think that was actually a mistake? Because I see people say, oh, why are people complaining because they didn't get all our multiverse stuff? It's like, but you did call it Multiverse of Madness, and you are in this multiverse kind of crazy period. You just had an entire animated TV show last year that's all about the extreme possibilities of the multiverse. And then you do this movie and you're like, well, here's a place where you might get hit if you go down the wrong crosswalk. And it's like that's it. That's like, that's all you're going to give us. It was just weird. I don't know.
I was expecting another multiverse like run through. Yeah. Instead, it was like, oh, did you see that paint one? Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I think this is a movie where you actually have to cut loose and not play it safe. And I thought this was a movie that was playing it safe, I think.
Yeah. I definitely see that criticism. I think I went in with tempering so many expectations, right? Mm-hmm. That even in the movie, I was getting like, I had to like temper it when Professor X went into Wanda's mind. And I was like, oh my God, here it comes. Here comes the big moment. Here comes something. Here comes whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was just a ploy for her to kill him. But I thought that was going to be the moment, right?
Like a Magneto reference or something, or
something, right? Yeah. Or like, I don't know what. Mm-hmm. Or that's where we were going to find that Wanda was actually not herself, right? Mm-hmm. Like I thought before, like he was going to die and he'd be like, Strange, it's not our fault or something. And that would have cued us into, we need to figure out how to save Wanda too. Because what do you do now?
Well, I think anyone who thinks, I think anyone who believes Wanda is fully gone, you're
I know, but
ridiculous. But
how does she at this point? How does she like correct herself? Like, how does she?
Well,
is she just like, oh, I guess I'm better now. I don't want my children back. Like,
I mean, they have the comics to head off of, right? Like, she did kill the Avengers in the comics. I mean, she did become a villain. She is today back to more or less being a hero. There are still characters, there are still mutants who obviously don't trust her, who don't like her. but she has redeemed herself through doing different things. Like in the comics, her big kind of moment of redemption was helping the mutants get rid of the Phoenix when it returned in Avengers vs. X-Men. That was kind of the culmination of that story. So I mean, there are different things you can do. I think I don't like the idea, which I've seen people posit, where they say like, well, because of the multiverse, just a Wanda that never went bad will now. Like that's the ultimate cop out, right?
Yeah.
That like, because then you're also not spending time with the same character you did spend time with before. That's a cheap, that only worked in Beer Fest because they made a joke about it in Beer Fest. If you remember that, the Broken Lizard movie.
Are you asking me if I remember Beer Fest?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the.
Well, that's one of the best jokes in that movie. But I it needs to be the same Wanda, and I think you just have to whether it's another season of a show or her own movie. Which honestly, I thought Doctor Strange was a supporting character in this movie. Like this movie really was Scarlet Witch in the Multiverse of Madness a little bit more because she had the bigger arc. It was kind of redoing the WandaVision arc, but obviously pushing it more extreme. But I think they should invest in redeeming her. And to answer your question though, how do you change it? One thing the MCU has shown a pretty decent ability to do is because they have committed this long form and serialized storytelling, they can always go back and fix their mistakes. People complained about Black Widow's death in Endgame and how it felt like it meant so little and it would just seem like underdeveloped. And then they used the Black Widow movie and Hawkeye to actually make her death more impactful in retrospect, right? Like those two things actually made her death more meaningful than it was in the movie. There's nothing that stops them at this point from suddenly having Wanda come back and be like, I was controlled by the dark. You know what I mean? Like that's in their wheelhouse. They have that ability to still pull that out if they need to. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do that cop out instead.
I definitely marked out when they did the X-Men theme.
That was cool. Although his wheelchair did look pretty chintzy though. Didn't look great.
It did look. Yeah. And I thought was interesting is that it was credited as the X-Men 97 theme in the it also in the credits. It's also interesting. Do you think Danny Elfman do you think he likes that song? Like you think they were like, oh, we need to kind of put in the X-Men animated thing for here. You think he was like, oh yeah, I know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know if he likes it. I'm sure he's tuned enough into music to know how iconic that theme is.
You think he does?
Yeah, I think so. As someone who got
Danny on the phone, Danny.
As someone who was also working in TV and in animation, around that time, I would think there's a chance that he knows that theme. In terms of his score, there were some times where his score was really kind of nondescript, and then there was some awesome moments when you'd bring in the electric guitar riffs, and things like that. So there was some great kind of Danny Elfman flourishes in the score as well. So I want to highlight that. It was a hit and miss score, but the hits were really cool. I kind of really wish. Danny Elfman had this really distinctive sound that what I'm talking about of the 80s and early 90s. You knew a Danny Elfman score when you heard it. And then he started to move away from that, right? His scores got a little bit more kind of, I don't want to say generic, but they didn't have that Danny Elfman sound.
Sure.
And he's never fully gone back to that. And I think maybe he's worried that it became a little self-parody-ish, because it started to sound but I wish he would just return to it. I kind of, at this point, I think it'd be fun to go back to the jovial kind of bouncy Danny Elfman scores of Beetlejuice and Pee-wee and Batman.
So I think overall we agree on quite a few points, but maybe disagree where it falls.
Yeah, and to be fair, look,
tolerance on a lot of stuff.
If we're rating it, it's a soft 3 out of 5 for me, which is still good.
Yeah, I'd probably put it out of 5, a 4.25. I enjoyed it. I think the flourishes of the visual, je ne sais quoi, I think outweighed some of the big script problems for me. And I think because of where my expectations were, I think that that's why I was kind of totally fine with it. And it was paced well, I thought, which is always something that I have issues with. Especially in some MCU stuff, but overall I liked it. Did it get me excited to the next MCU movie? No.
Yeah.
Did it make me go ooh, I wonder what's going on with this? No. Did it make me excited for the next Doctor Strange movie? Not as much as I was probably excited with the idea of Doctor Strange after the WandaVision, like knowing that they were really connected. So I don't know if it did its job there. I mean, obviously I'm going to see Thor, but yeah.
I mean, I am excited for Thor, but it's not because of anything to do with this movie. It's just because it's another Taika Waititi Thor movie. Really quick though, I know there's just like one thing we didn't mention. Benedict Wong continues to be great as Wong.
Great.
Like he's really become like one of like, to me, like one of the unsung kind of beating hearts of the MCU, where you're just always happy to see him. And he just always nails it.
And I thought they did some really nice action with, it can be tough, I think, with the way Strange and Wong fight, right? To really kind of make it stand out. But I actually kind of dug both big fight scenes that Wong was involved with. I thought the siege of the temple was not the over like the big portion of it. When they got more into the like reflections and things like the more horror type of it worked.
That's what I mean. You can see when they go like, okay, Sam, you can handle this part, and you can tell when they're like, Sam, we've already got that all designed. Like that's
because it didn't make sense. They're like, oh, all it took were like 3 of them to fail, and there was a hole in the shield.
Yeah,
like they didn't think that through. That didn't make sense for me. Also, they set up this whole thing of like, oh, my fiance is my husband now is a big fan of yours. Like they could have had a great moment there with Christine's.
Like they get pulled along on the adventure for some reason or something, and like,
or something.
Like that would actually be fun, right? That's the kind of thing where if you took a few more passes at the script, somebody like you might have said, hey, wouldn't it be fun if instead of an alternate reality, Christine, we have him on this adventure with his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend who just got married, and her new husband who loves him, who like thinks he's awesome. Like what a great trio idea for a film. But no, they're just out of the movie after 2 minutes.
But overall, I do agree with you though that like the MCU Phase 4 has been high floor, low ceiling. Right? Like they haven't had anything that really made me go like, this is gross. I don't ever want to see this movie again. But there hasn't been one that's like, I need to go a second time in the theater to see it, or I'm going to be looking up YouTube clips of this later on. Right. So I think it's been, I don't want to say they've been playing it safe necessarily. I just think, I think they're probably being careful.
I think they're being very careful. The treatment of I'm guessing you agree with this too. The Ralph Boner thing in WandaVision, and now
you're never gonna let that go.
Well, and now Professor X in this movie, because you and I were like, well, maybe this is where Deadpool shows up, right? Maybe he falls into the universe, or maybe like we see other X-Men characters. And now every time we predict that, and it turns out to just be whatever, like the surface level thing. I am actually more and more convinced now, because I'm sure you just saw that story where like Kevin Feige just went off on some retreat with all the writers to come up with like the next 10 years of MCU.
They haven't.
They haven't figured out anything about the X-Men yet. That's my guess. They still don't know. Like they put Professor X in this to placate us for a bit, but they still have not figured out how to introduce the X-Men or the mutants. They just don't know. That's my assumption at this point.
That was exactly what I wanted to bring up too. Nothing has convinced me more after this movie that the X-Men are at least another five years away. Yeah. At least 5 years away. Like honestly, maybe even 5 years from an announcement of them. Like we're going to go through the whole multiverse Kang thing before we get anything. Yeah. Because
that just gives them an excuse to think about how can we use the multiverse Kang thing to do it, to set it up. How that is like the next thing after that,
Yeah. Which, you don't want to be the guy to replace the guy, right? So let these schmucks be the post Endgame storyline, and then X-Men save the day.
Now, I am happy as we wrap up, I am happy for Raimi that he gets like an easy hit out of this, that it's like, he hasn't done a movie since Oz. This is a nice return to form. Not to a certain degree, when he was allowed to do his things. Just really quickly, I know we want to wrap up, but would you rather see Raimi be given Doctor Strange 3 now and allow him to build it up from the entirety, and just like, do you want Raimi to be the new Doctor Strange guy? Or, and I know this is like a long shot, but do you wish, what would, if you could choose between that and Raimi getting to do a new Spider-Man film with Sony, maybe even like Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire now to go back to that universe. Which would you choose?
It has to be one of those.
Yeah, like if you have a third option, you can throw it in though too. But if out of those two, which ones, and like what's your other dream scenario?
So I don't know if I want to see him do the space stuff with Doctor Strange, because that's where it looks like he's going, right? I don't know much about Clea.
It seems like they're setting up Secret Wars, this idea of like the multiverse is like kind of because she said it's an excursion, right? So it's about the multiverse
Like the
is
original,
like collapsing.
I've only read the
no,
first
no,
Secret Wars,
the Jonathan Hickman Secret Wars. Yeah.
I haven't read that.
Yeah.
I think I'm fine, honestly, with not having either of those. Like, I think I've come to terms with not getting. I thought Toby's show in this was fine. You know, I don't really. I mean, I guess because I like Sam Raimi and I want him to feel good, maybe give him Spider-Man 4.
Yeah.
But I would love to see him do a like Marvel Knights type, taking on like Ghost Rider, Blade, some sort of like in that sort of realm of weird, and really get strange with some stuff. Like I would love like a Limbo movie. You know, where he could do something.
Just do a Tomb of Dracula movie. Why not? Dracula's in the public domain. Do the Marvel Dracula. Give it to
why
Raimi.
not?
Yeah,
sure. So yeah, I don't know if I need Raimi in either of those.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. My
want to
dream, like what I really would hope for, is he gets to do another Drag Me to Hell or something, to use this clout to make something completely his own. You know, but
my wife didn't. Did we see? I saw it in theaters with somebody, and my wife did not believe me that it was her to see that I saw Drag Me to Hell.
It wasn't with me, so yeah.
It was someone. I don't remember who it was with, but I definitely saw it with somebody and really liked it. But we had a coworker whose name appears in that movie, and we thought it was very funny. That's why I thought it might have been with you. But that's it'll be interesting to see what kind of the fallout is, because I think whatever you think about this movie, I think he is a success story from it.
Yeah, he shines. Like I said, there are moments in this that are some of the most inventive moments we've seen in the MCU, not just Phase 4. So
yeah, to me, I definitely recommend seeing it. Go in with your expectations in check. Just, yeah, man. If you even saying that, like I still went in and I was like, when are they gonna get the Illuminati? When's this gonna happen? But shit, that did not work.
No.
Do you think? Okay. More predictions. Do we see any of those alternate reality Illuminati ideas elsewhere? Like, do you see Captain Carter show up? I know that character dies.
I think that's the end of Captain Carter. Like, why bother with more at this point? You know.
Do you think Krasinski's in, or do you think that was like a one-time thing and he was like, yeah?
If it's a one-time thing, it's very, very funny that they just had him pop up and then like string cheesed him. You know, like that's very funny. But honestly, after seeing this, I hope he's out. I just like. There was nothing about the performance that made me think he's the right guy for it. And I like Krasinski. I like Jack Ryan a lot. You know,
absolutely right. Yeah. You know who I still want? I want Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny. I love that idea.
There's been this like big online push for it to be Rahul Kohli, who's the actor from like iZombie. That would be awesome too. You know,
yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
I saw some fan cast, which is not going to happen, but they had the kid from Stranger Things, like the Joe Kearney. What's his name? He plays like you don't watch Stranger Things?
I just know Finn Wolfhard, so I only watched the first season. That's the only, and I just know Finn Wolfhard because his name is Finn Wolfhard.
So he's he was like he's like the teenage version who hangs out with the kids, and as him,
the one that kind of looks like Ben Schwartz.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And him as the Human Torch, and Jason Segel as Ben Grimm. And I was like,
Jason Segel. I would like to just see Jason Segel in general. I feel like that guy's kind of like vanished. You know.
Yeah. Do you think he's lazy? Like
he's not. You know what? I recently, like not too long ago, I looked him up because I was like, why doesn't Jason Segel do anything? He's actually on some TV show that like nobody's heard of. That's on like one of those like random weird Tubi networks or streaming services that like nobody cares about. And it's like, really, that like what happened? Like, and then he's also like a a middle grade book author now. He writes like a kid's book series.
Yeah.
But,
Like, I think he probably was just like, oh, well, I had that TV show that was on for like 180 episodes.
Yeah.
So,
it's like he got the Muppets back, like he like was like a driving force to get that back, and then he was like, yeah, I'm not going to be in the second one though. So what? Just like to immediately like even just walk away from that. So I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, I thought it was interesting. It's come and gone. We only have a few more months until Thor 4. Got probably a decade and a half till X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
So buckle up.
Yep.
Is there anything else you're consuming?
No, it's been the end of the semester here, so I've just been pretty busy with that, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
So,
no.
I gave up on Moon Knight halfway through. Did not like that either. So
Yeah, that's been a playing the Switch while watching kind of show.
Yeah.
So I don't have to pay attention.
not good. It's not good.
It's not great. I do love Oscar Isaac. Oh, I'll save it for next episode, but Oscar Isaac had some really great quotes about his time as Apocalypse.
Yeah, I know. We'll talk about that for sure.
We'll have to talk about that. But anyways, so that's it for now. We will see you folks later.
Yep.
Peace out.